In this video, we'll show you how we built the public roadmap, our public roadmap in WeWeb. So in case you don't know it, you can, it's a public roadmap where you can look for, new integrations or search for a specific ticket. And when you're logged in, you can upvote a feature or request or cancel your upvote. You can also look at product updates. These are like super like high level, but you can read more detailed. We link to changelog articles or use documentation, and you can make a request again if you're logged in with a title and a description. So the first step to do that is you need to think about how you want to structure your data. So the first time I did the project, I had one table with my list of tickets, and whenever a user upvoted, it would update that line in the database. The problem with that is if users, have several users upvote the same ticket at the same time, how does that work? It risks basically corrupting data in your database. So thinking about how you structure your data is super important whenever you're starting a web project, and ideally you wanna isolate every transaction so that when a user does something, that doesn't risk breaking everything. So in our case, we had three tables. We have a table with our list of tickets and the type, if they're in production or if they're in progress or under review. And this is linked. Then we have a linked field, which is linked to a separate table, and we keep the table separate. So basically, if several users upvote the same ticket at the same time, it's not a problem. It will create separate lines, and it will not affect this table at all. So if there's a mistake, if something happens, it will be very isolated and it won't break everything. We have a third table, which is the type of ticket. So if it's a new feature, new integration, an improvement. And we have colors here, which I'll show you in a second how we use. Then in WeWeb, we have those collections. Basically, we have our list of tickets on the roadmap, which is the view on public roadmap. So here it's the tickets, but on this specific view. So the filter is that the status is not in production. We have the opposite here where the status is in production, and this is our collection of tickets in production. And we have our list of request types, so improvements, new feature, which is this ticket type table, and the upvotes per user, which is this table here. We have the user feedback table as well, collection, which is basically from when you make a request here, it will fill out the user feedback here. We won't go into that in this video because this is it's a simple CRUD updating a record in creating a record and error table, and we have dedicated tutorials, videos, and use documentation for this. So we'll focus on the upvote system and the design. So you notice here we have three columns, yeah, obviously, and in each column we have like a title. We have this section, and then we have another section with the list of tickets. In the design, all we really need is we need one column. So we just have one column element. If I close everything, actually, let me close everything. So we have this one columns element, and in there we have one container. We named it column, but it's a container. And in that container, we have the status, which is some name, the name of the status and the color of the status. And we have tickets, another container. And in the container tickets, we have one ticket, one container with a template ticket. At the template ticket, we have the top section, which has a left section, which is the upvote icon and text. And on the right, we have the title and description. And then the bottom will be our tag in the tag name. So that's like really basic, right? And all we have to do now, we don't have to design anything else. We have all we need to display all the tickets in three columns. So let's get started. The first thing I want is my 3 columns. I want, I want 3 columns. I want my column under review, in planned, and in progress. So in order to do that, where would I have this information in here? I would have the information in the tickets that are on the roadmap. So if I look at my tickets on the roadmap collection, I have the information here in public status. So because every ticket has a status. So what I want to do is I want to get this data, basically. And now I have lots of tickets. I have all the tickets, but I only want to get this information. So in order to do that, what I'll do is I'll roll up. And what does rollup do? It returns all the values that correspond to a key in an array. So the array we're looking at is our list of tickets on the roadmap. The key we're looking at is the public status X. So public status X. And we'll finish like this. In case the key thing is not clear for you, is here in your collection, the collections are arrays. They're a list of objects. You see here the curly brackets, that's to signify there's an object. In your object, you have all the information for your records, really. So the ID of the record, and then it's everything that's in the line here. All of this is an object. And the key in objects, you have keys. So ID, type, title, description, all of these are keys. And the value, each key has a value. And in this case, this is the value of ID. This new feature is the value of type. And in progress is the value of public status X. So the rollup says we'll return all the values of public status X. And by default, we'll really return all of them. So here you see we have in progress, planned. We have it like repeated because we're looking at all the tickets. Now, if we add this little parameter here, true. If we add true, it will bring up the unique values for key. So instead of showing in progress, planned, under review a number of times, it will show them once. And you see here suddenly we have an array with 3 items. And now, even though in the HTML3 we still only have 1 column, on the canvas we have 3. And if we go in here and name, if we bind the text, then we have the repeated. By default, we're invited to choose from the repeated item, and so from the array. What's important to note here in WeWeb, you can bind an array to any container. So here we bound it to a columns container, but it could be a div, it could be a flexbox, anything. What you need to realize, what's important to remember, is that the first child of the container will be the repeated item. So here we have an array with 3 items, so we have 3 columns. Now, inside our column, we have, so we changed the name of the status with the information from our repeated items. Now we want to look at the lists of tickets. So here we have only, in the HTML tree, we only have 1 ticket. But we can, here, if we bind to the list, a list of tickets, so for example, there you go. Now, by magic, it will repeat as many times, even though there's still only 1 ticket in the HTML tree. There will be as many tickets on the page, on the canvas, as they are in our collection here. So let's bind here the text because I want to make it very clear here. I'll bind the title of the repeated item. And you see here I have the same items, the same tickets are in all the columns. So if I take PDF viewer, for example, the public status is in progress, but I still see it in the planned column. That's because instead of binding my tickets, all my tickets, I need to filter by key. So I need to only bind, I need to only get the tickets where the value of key public status X matches the repeated item. So in order to do that, I can go in the formulas and in the, because we're dealing with an array, so it will be in the array formulas. I'll go ahead and do filter by key. And what filter by key does is it says, okay, give me an array. So in this case, our tickets of roadmap on the tickets on the roadmap. Then give me a key. So in this case, public status X. And then it says, and tell me what's the value you're looking for. What value should I filter by? And the value you should filter by is the repeated item in the column. So now, right now I'm in the under review column. So if I open here, it will be under review, under review, under review, and I'm doing this randomly, right? Now if I go on the tickets on planned, it will be planned. So this is what the filter by key does. And you can bind everything here. We can bind the description. Here we have our public upvotes, so it will be the length of our public upvotes. And that's it really. And here, what we can do, so the text, let me move my face here. The text here will be new feature. But you'll notice that in our design, we have a different color depending on the type of ticket, and it comes back to our ticket type here, the colors we have here. So let's go and find that color here. So on the tag, I will want to set a background color. Okay. And the background color, basically, what I will have to do, so where's the background color? Where do I have the information? I have it in this collection here. So let's take this. And now what I need to do is I actually need to look up information. So again, I'm working with arrays, so I'm going to use this lookup formula here. Actually, let me put it at the beginning. And what does the lookup do? So the lookup says, give me a value. So in our case, the value we're going to give it is new integration, like the repeated item it has a type of new integration. So we'll give it the repeated items type. We say, okay, the value we're looking for is this. Where are we looking for it? We're looking for it in the request type data. And this one. And what is the key? Where are we looking for this? The key is here, name. So let's see here. I'll type in name. And that's it. That's how we get, okay, you were looking for new integration in this array, and then through this key name. So this is the entire object from, so this is this, right? This is in the entire object. Now, what the background color, we need a color, so we actually need this information. In order to get that, you have a couple of options. You can either, in between brackets, call the key you're looking for, so, color, or you can use the dot notation, and it will achieve the same result. So that's how you look up. You look for the name. We looked for the name for the value with the key name to find that to make that link between the two tables, the two collections. Now it's annoying me very much that the text is black, so I will change it to white. Not that it's that much prettier, but that'll do. Okay, so finally, what we'll need to do then is we need to CRUD, and we need to let users upvote a feature. So in order to do that, we'll on this here, I selected on the left. So when the user clicks on this box, we'll have a workflow, and on click, and the workflow will create record, and it will create a record um, in Airtable, and it will do that in upvotes per user. So the email will be the email of the person who is authenticated. I'll just pause a second because when I unfold this, there are a couple of things that are confidentials. Yeah, so I basically, we're using token-based auth, so it's the same authentication system we use when you log into WeWeb. So there's a bit of information in there, but basically you can unfold the user information and bind to whichever field contains the email of the user. And then to add you need to tell your Airtable in this case, but you need to tell your backend the record ID, the ID of the record, so of the repeated item. So the ticket that the user is upvoting. And in this case, it's right here. So the ID is here. And it will be different, based on the backend the database you're using. But basically, you'll want the unique ID from the repeated item. So the repeated item will be here, and depending on the database you're working with, you'll know what to do basically. And then it's really, you can test your workflow or test your action. In this case, I'm not going to test it because it's in production. So the collections that we have here are real. They're not connected. They're connected to a different. Like this is a database I recreated for tutorials. But basically, once you have this workflow, when a user clicks on it, it will update. It will update the record in your database. And what you could do, what we did, and let me show you the live page. What you can do, I had it open on two screens. What you can do here is, so if I show you here, what we have is we have a couple of different buttons. So if I go into preview mode, and if let me show you this. So if I click here, you see it's a different button. So if I go here, we show something different based on whether you've already voted or not the ticket. And what we have is also, so we have different workflows. Here is the upvote workflow, and we have a downvote workflow. So all workflows are here. We have them in our global workflows. And so to show you, basically the upvote workflow will expect a backlog ID. And then what we do is what I showed you before. So we bind to a user, and then we bind to the backlog ID that's in this parameter. And here, what we do is we execute the workflow and we pass it the backlog ID here. So there are several ways you can do that, but this is how it works. And you can downvote will be the similar logic, except you will delete the record. So you will it will be based on if the user has already if the user's email or ID or matches in the record, in the table. Sorry. So hopefully this gives you a good overview of how we created this. Again, for the search element, for the multi-select element, we have dedicated videos and user documentation on how to use these. So if you go to this, for example, to the documentation, will the multi-select will be here. If you go to the WeWeb Academy, you can look for, you can search for search, and you will find actually the use case explaining how we built this specific page. Or here you have a dedicated tutorial on how to set up the search bar. So plenty of information out there, and if you have a tutorial request, you can also add them to your. You can also make a request here. We look at all the requests. This was a long one. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment and let us know. If you have specific questions about specific projects, we're also very active in the community. The WeWeb team is active in the community. A lot of WeWeb users are active in the community, so don't not hesitate to leverage that.